So I by no means coined the term agentic translation. It's the idea of agents and translation is just a very simple connection. And in my opinion, maybe it's not necessarily widespread, but I definitely didn't coin the term. I think the key thing when I think about agentic translation and this idea of working with agents, I don't think it's something overly mystifying, right? I think this idea so typically, right, an assistant, when you're talking about AI, is something that you're prompting. Maybe, like think about ChatGPT, you're prompting that assistant, you're asking it something, it's giving a response. An agent, in theory, it has more of a direction. It doesn't require you to prompt it. It has its own goals, its own purposes. That's why it's an agent, right? So it's more self-directed. It's still in my opinion, the agents are still helping. And I think the key thing is really about whether it's agentic or not agentic. That's, in my opinion, irrelevant. What is relevant for me is that I believe in authorship. And I believe in the fact that language is something very human, very much about identity, very much about connection, and very much about outcomes. So the agents are there, in my opinion, they're embedded in our workflow to provide humans with insights that are typically far deeper and greater than they would ever be able to come up with on their own. So the agents are there to really give them a profound sense of other dimensions that may be hidden to them. Maybe there's a compliance agent that's informing them of potential compliance issues around their translations. Maybe it's a SEO agent that's informing the translator about potential SEO issues around certain terminology and how to make those better. Maybe it's a cultural advisor agent that's informing them of potential cultural issues around some of the choices. So agents, in my opinion, what they're doing is they're augmenting how much information we can access, right? I'm not an expert in a lot of things. So when I look at text through my own eyes. But imagine if I can look at text through the eyes of multiple people and be informed of what these multiple people are seeing in a way that's actually very productive and that's feasible for me to take that into account. So I think the key thing with agents is it's very important not to produce a cacophony, right? So this mess, this noisy environment where you're getting too many inputs. So it's really important to have inputs that matter. So it's also important to be able to calibrate these agents and talk about what they should and should not do. So as far as how agents impact the future of translation, I think it's in this same direction that I keep repeating over and over in my videos and in my talks, which is we're talking about translators becoming a lot more brokers of decisions, linguistic decisions with deep outcomes, right? So maybe, for instance, based on certain input that you're getting from agents, maybe you're going to decide to make the text really witty and funny. Maybe you're going to decide to make the text really formal and professional. Maybe you're going to decide to make two different versions of the text to meet two completely different goals. Maybe you're going to decide to really depart a ton from the source and make something very adapted and very different. Maybe you're going to stick very closely to the source. So based on these insights, then these decisions, they carry more weight, right? Because now it's not just about, well, is whatever you're translating in a given language, is it achieving what it set out to do in the best possible way? So let's say, for instance, you publish a blog in English, and that blog in English is having great traction and it's generating amazing analytics. If you translate that and you're not reaching the same analytics, there's probably something wrong. There's probably something that was mismatched, right? And it goes beyond language quality. Language quality in this case, I'm not saying that it's a given, right? So let's say you don't have mistakes in the text, but it's still not performing that well. And when you start digging into that, maybe it's too technical. Maybe it has no mistakes, but it's too technical. Maybe it should be less technical. Maybe it should be more personable, more funny, more dialogical, etc. And it's about achieving those outcomes, right? So now if I tweak that translation and I make it whatever it needs to be for that particular audience, maybe now it's going to perform better. So you're optimizing text, you're architecting text, you're designing outcomes, you're facilitating outcomes. And that to me is the future of translation. It's about having people in positions where they can make these really complex decisions in very short amount of time and through very massive amounts of content. And that in a way that those decisions can be leveraged, reused, and repurposed so that they can be leveraged at scale.